Nobody is good at texting and driving, no matter what you say.
My mom was texting at the wheel, and seriously, I took the phone from her because she was about to text. She got out the phone, and I was like, "Mom, what are you doing?" And so I just took the phone away from her.
I think every teenager texts, but what I do, so with me and my friends, I either give them my phone if I want them to text for me, or they give me theirs, and that's what we do.
I could always call my parents. My parents always told me that if I ever needed a ride and nobody else could do it, then I could always call my parents.
No, there's not too much difference with doing drugs or drinking. They're really much the same thing because you don't have control of yourself.
If I was in a car and not everybody had seatbelts, I believe that's very dangerous, because even if you get in a small accident, you can still be thrown into a window, or you could hit something and be seriously injured by that.
They told me several times, if you weren't wearing a seatbelt, we wouldn't have even come. We would have just sent the coroner.
There's definitely been times when I've been in a situation where a lot of people need rides in the same car and there aren't enough seats, and people just pile in on top of each other, sit on laps and stuff, but that's really not a good idea. If that happens, you just need to, maybe call someone or find someone else that can give people rides.
They were going way over the speed limit, and I said, do you know what the speed limit is? And they said no, and I said, well, you're going way too far over the speed limit, and I'm not comfortable with it.
Later that night, they had asked me how fast they thought I was going, and I told them 65. And later on, my crash investigator found out that I had hit the curb around 71, or I think 71 was the speed. Speed limit in that area of the accident was 45.
My brother he's pretty bad about his speed, and usually I have to get on him about it.
When I'm driving down the road, I'm pretty comfortable. I'm a very relaxed driver, but there's always hazards, including weather, construction, traffic, just the general stuff that just comes with driving.
Seatbelts are extremely important. They can save your life.
Don't drink and drive. It's very dangerous, and always wear a seatbelt.
If I had to be driving, I wouldn't text if I had other people around the car with me.
On the way back home from Hollywood Video, my friend text messaged me, and that's when I opened up my cell phone and I started to reply to the text message. And as I was replying to the text message, the road starts curving left, and Mr. Price was in the bicyclist lane, and I just kept driving straight. So the road was curving, and I just kept driving straight, and that's when I crossed into the bicycle lane and struck Mr. Price from behind.
You think that you're invincible, that nothing can ever affect you in any way, shape, or form. Because we're teenagers, nothing can hurt us.
The last thing that you ever expect is to hear that your best friend's dead.
Every single kid that our age feels immortal. We all did. We all do stupid things. They may not think it's going to happen to them. It's going to hurt bad when it does.
I don't think there's a difference between drivers that have been doing drugs or drivers that have been drinking, because both of those have the same effect on drivers. They're not completely themselves, they can't really see correctly, and it messes with their minds, and if they're behind the wheel, that's a dangerous situation.
At the party, I felt like I was doing everything right. I was making sure I wasn't going to drive home. I was making sure that I would go to bed. I wasn't drinking all night. I thought I would have enough time to process the alcohol and then get up in the morning. I woke up in the morning, I felt completely sober, and I wasn't though. At the time of my accident, I had a .169 BA.
A few times I've been at a party where I've had to help some kids get home or persuade them to stay at the house and just stay the night and wait till the morning.
I would have to say, if you're driving or if you're riding in my car, then you have to put a seatbelt on. I'm sorry, but that's my rules.
Well, when me and Tanya first started hanging out, I noticed more and more when we would go ride in the car that she didn't have her seatbelt on. She didn't like the way the seatbelt went around her body because she was so much smaller. It just bothered her, she said. I was actually getting her into the groove of putting it on when I put mine on.
If I was the passenger in a car and someone was speeding and it was making me uncomfortable, I would probably tell them, but I don't know if I'd do much because my mom tends to speed a lot. So, but if it was dangerous, then I would definitely say something.
No, I'm pretty sure that almost none of my friends pay attention to the texting law.
If I realized that the person I was driving with was doing drugs or drinking, I would most likely tell them to let me out of the car at that time, or I would ask them if they would like me to drive.
So I think it's important that they know what my rules are in my car, and that I'm going to be making sure that they have their seatbelts on, that they're not trying to distract me, and that they're all going to be safe in my car, because in the end it's going to be my responsibility because I'm the one who's driving.
I got in the car and I didn't know she was drunk at the time, but she was, and she decided, well, I didn't know she was, so I let her drive me home, and when we were driving she was acting weird and she was like swerving and everything, and then I figured I like could smell it after, and I got home and I called my mom, and I was really upset, and like I thought that I would never be in that situation, and I was, and so I didn't really know how I could deal with it, and if I did like know that she was, I wouldn't have gotten in the car with her, and I would have called someone to pick me up or even walk home.
I'd feel very comfortable getting adult involved. I feel like there's not a problem. If, you know, that kid gets in trouble, that's kind of their bad, you know. I mean, I don't want him to get in trouble, but I also don't want them drinking, and I don't want them doing drugs either, so.
No one told me to stop. I was unaware that I was drinking so much. And maybe if someone was there to tell me, okay, you need to stop, or you need like to settle down or something, it would have turned out differently.
The night that he died, he was getting ready, and he asked if he looked okay, and I like fixed him, and then he was leaving, and he said, "Have a good time," because I had to babysit my sister, and I said, "You too," and the last words that I said to him were, "Don't drive." And he said, "I won't."
And all that they had to do is someone had to say, "I don't think this is a good idea. You're too drunk." Instead of standing there helping them make up the decision of who is the most sober, they could have just stopped them.
If it was my friend or anybody and they were drinking and tried to drive, I'd have to stop them, because I'm trying to help them out and the people on the road that they might hurt when they're driving drunk.
I didn't think anything like this was going to happen, because I was like every other teenager where it happened to everybody else but not them. I saw it, but I always thought it's going to happen to somebody else, not me. And like, because to everybody else, you're somebody else, except like, because they don't think it's going to happen to them, it's going to happen to somebody else. Well, you're somebody else to somebody, so it can happen to anybody.
In 1 second, life can be gone.
It can happen to somebody else, but it can't happen to me. But it just feels like to me that there's no way of knowing unless you know it personally, and for it to happen personally, there's not really much you can say other than it can happen to anybody. It really can.
That night could have been a million times different in every way. If just one simple little thing could have been different. If one person had spoken up, if one person had taken the keys or actually done something instead of stood there and thought about it,